Good evening. Namaste. I welcome you all to this VICHAR webinar series. This is a weekly webinar series for the diaspora and wider community members. Forum is this VICHAR webinar initiative is initiative of FIAV, Federation of Indian Associations of Victoria. My name is Surya Soni. I'm host as well as presenter today, and I'm former president and current trustee of FIAV here in Melbourne. So I'll be introducing myself today. So I'm in my day job, I'm an IT professional, AI engineer. I've been studying lots of Indian philosophy through Darshan Shastra, and there's tons of knowledge there. So one of these very favorite topic is Nyaya Darshan to me, and how do we articulate is the subject of the today. So I'll start by sharing my screen. So let me know if you all can see my screen. Anyone can confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
Thank you. And you can see my small photo in the side corner as well, is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. I think looks all right. So before I continue presenting my topic today, which is Nyay's 5-part logical framework, which is called Panchavayava and
Panchavayava.
Panchavayava, sorry,
Yeah.
Panchavayava, and this has been taught by my Acharya Ved Prakashji Shrotri. He unfortunately passed away last year, but he taught me so many other different things in philosophy from India, and when he visited Melbourne many times. So I learned a lot, and at the same time, while I'm presenting this, I want to apologize that I may not be using those exact verbatim things the way in the detail he's taught me. I've simplified significantly, and while simplifying it significantly, I may be making some mistake there. So apologize, and if you find any error, please correct me, like as you did just now, Pratibhaji, in the pronunciation. But if any other issue if you find, please correct me, or you can update me later as well. But with all honesty, you will find it very interesting and very important. I've been practicing it for a very long time, and whatever I'm sharing today in this webinar, if you thoroughly absorb it and practice it over the time, you will really benefit from this from various point of view. So I welcome you all again. Today we are going to explore a fascinating ancient Indian system of logical thinking called Nyay, focusing on the concept of Panchavayava, the 5-part structure for clear, powerful reasoning. Whether you are a student, professional, or simply curious, this will help you think and communicate more effectively. So, why learn logical thinking? I've got some bullet points on the screen, but I want to make this session very interactive. Everyone feel free to unmute yourself. And when I prompt you for any comments, feel free to make some comments today because this need to be very interactive. If you don't ask question, we'll not learn. That's the thing I learned during my learning as well. So why do we think we need to learn logical thinking? What are your personal goals around this topic? Anyone want to comment there? So yeah, I think it'll take a few more minutes in the coming slides because we'll need more interaction. See, Vimalji, please comment. Vimalji, you can comment if you unmuted here.
Yeah, logic and thinking is generally, analyzing the information and draw conclusions.
Yep. So if I can build some context, thank you, Vimalji, for that suggestion. So why should we care about logic? Because life is full of decisions, problems, and conversation where clarity matters. Good logical thinking helps us solve problems, make wise choices, and avoid confusion, and express ourselves confidently. Nyaya Darshan has given us simple but very powerful tool for this. So when we say that it is coming from ancient Indian philosophy, does not mean that it is for the past problems or that problem of that time. They've solved these problems for any time, past, present, or future. That's why it's called a framework. It's not called a solution, it's called framework. And we'll come to know why it is called framework. It's very tight, airtight framework and approach to how do we approach logical thinking. And by having a logical thinking, we need to have lots of emotional intelligence. We need to have those support system for each other while we're communicating. But at the same time, we should not get carried away. And the logical thinking helps as a tool to resolve those dilemmas in life and all those challenges in making strong decisions there. So what is Nyay? I'll give a brief. This is Nyaya Darshan is one of six classical Nyaya is ancient Indian philosophy focused on rules and methods of reasoning and acquiring knowledge. The word Nyaya means rule or method, and this school has developed detailed frameworks to help us think clearly, prove what we claim. So the term in this slide we see is the focus is on logic, knowledge, and debate. So knowledge is something like my personal understanding is knowledge is constant. It's just how we approach and understand that knowledge, the wisdom, which is constant. How do we discover? We can, there are few different ways of understanding any facts of the life, right? One is by first-hand experience. What we see is what we believe. That's one absolute way of knowing things. And second thing is using inferencing, that sometimes you may not. So for example, I have heard a lot about America, for example, but I've never visited America. But so that's inferencing by listening or seeing or reading about it and all, and even watching video or something. We are still inferencing. We are not first and experiencing those things. So that's the second thing. A third approach to know the facts of life is by listening experts of the trade. If we have some ex-scientist or some PhD scholar in the subject, we have to trust those words uh, if they are authority in that subject matter. We don't blindly trust anybody for that matter, but if we believe the person is an authority on that subject, we have to believe because they have spent their life to achieve that level of knowledge. So there are three ways of knowing the facts of life. One is, I'll repeat again, by first-hand experience. Second is through inferencing. And the third one is by listening to that experts. So this nyay and reasoning comes into picture to help us understand the second way of knowing the facts of life, which is inferencing. We haven't experienced it firsthand. So, and if we know the third one, which is the listening from the expert, so that's already effect of the life, or if we have experienced firsthand, that's effect of the life. But the inferencing requires lots of deductions from what we have experienced or what we listen from the experts. So keep remember these three things: first-hand experience, inferencing, and the third one is the words of an expert in the subject. And what we are discussing in this session today is that second part, inferencing, and that is where the logical reasoning comes into picture. And you will understand why I'm coming to that, emphasizing a lot on these three aspects soon. This would be very interactive. So if you have any in between questions, interrupt me and you can prompt me and ask any questions, because more questions you ask is more you will learn. I'll go to the next step. So my topic today is Panchavayava. This is a word in Hindi. I'll break this word down into its own parts. So Panch is 5 in Hindi. Avyava is parts or members. So Panchavayava is 5-part logical argument. And so it is a 5-part structure used in Nyay to build a logical argument or syllogism. It helps us prove something by breaking it down into clear, connected steps. Think of it like a recipe for making sure your reasoning is strong. So usually we believe that sometimes we say, oh, I've experienced it firsthand, and you should believe it. But you haven't experienced it first, and you cannot believe me unless I'm a authority, the third part. In day-to-day life, at work, in personal life or something, we are all common people, right? We are not expert, subject matter expert in anything or everything. And we still need to resolve those confusions, doubts, and we need to still come to the fact, common understanding of certain facts. And how we communicate to each other require this 5-part structured articulation of your statement and communication style to convince each other. The objective is not that I will supersede you, I'll trick you to believe what I want you to believe. That is not an objective. I want to make it very clear. The objective of Nyaya Darshan is not to trick each other. Objective is for a common person, two common person, to come to a common understanding by this structured way of reasoning with each other. And the objective is to find the fact of the life, the inferencing part, equivalent to the first fact of life is first-hand experience, and the third fact of life is listening from an expert in the trade, like super PhD or scientist or Nobel laureate, or in ancient times we talk about rishis and munis who have experienced those things firsthand. So we'll stick to that concept of inferencing, and communication between two common people requires these 5-part structured communication style. And that is the main technique we want to discuss today through this webinar. What are these 5 parts? How do we, rather than talking to each other or communicating to each other in casual way, if we keep these 5 parts in back of our mind, we can make airtight statements. Again, I'm repeating that by making these airtight statements, I'm not training or teaching here to dominate each other or trick people. The objective is to make yourself convinced first that what you're talking is correct. And once you're convinced yourself, it becomes easier to communicate with each other. If so the other person is communicating you in the same pattern, you both will come to a clear common understanding, and without exactly knowing the thing, without actually experiencing it firsthand or listening from the expert in the trade, the third part. So we are still focusing on the second part, which is inferencing. So we'll go to next slide. So without further delay, we'll talk about these 5 parts. Let's look closely at these 5 parts. The first one is called, in Hindi, it's called Pratyaksha. I'm using, these are technical terminology being used in Nyaya Darshan in the first part in Hindi, and the second part is in English, meaning of that term. The first part is called Pratigya. This is 5-part statement. So when you make a statement, you have to break down your statement into 5 parts. The very first part of your statement is called Pratigya. Pratigya means proposition. The core statement you want to communicate and conclude on. That is called Pratigya. The proposition is the claim you want to prove. That is the objective you want to prove during that reasoning. The reason supports that claim. The rest of the remaining 4 parts will support the main proposition. So what you use a proposition need to be very crystal clear, very atomic. When I say atomic, you cannot have very vague proposition at any conversation. You cannot have 2 separate diverse topics put together into one proposition. You have to narrow down your proposition very specific, crystal clear, and rest of the 4 parts will support and emphasize on that first part, so that your statement, the overall statement, is a combination of all these 5, will be so airtight nobody can counter you if you have done hard work to structure your 5-part statement very clearly. Again, as I've been repeating, that it is not to prove other people wrong or prove your point. Even if you're wrong, you're proving your wrong point as right. At the same time, it is not about impromptu reasoning. What Nyaya Darshan teaches, that even if it takes hours, days, or months, or years to form these 5 parts to come to the clear statement, take all your time. It's not about who won the debate in a 1-hour debate. It's not about debate to win within an hour, or winning or losing is not an objective. So don't rush into formulating all those statements. Or if you're going into meeting tomorrow, for example, think in these 5 parts. Make a very airtight, very deep thinking parts, and then you will have all the time. Rather than, once you practice it over the years, all these 5 parts will come very natural to you in your day-to-day conversation. So when you start, because I believe many of you will be practicing this 5-part structure of communication for the first time, so absorb it very carefully, listen to this video again through the recording, or read through yourself through any Nyaya Darshan topic you can find on the internet as well. But proposition need to be very specific, very clear, no vagueness need to be there, so that remaining 4 parts can heavily support your first proposition. So on the third column, we have some example. For example, my proposition is the hill has fire. We are standing far away from Dandenong Ranges, for example. I want to make a statement, there is a fire on Dandenong Ranges. That's a point I want to make. I haven't reached to the Dandenong Ranges myself to really first-hand experience and verify there is a literally fire I can see. But so that is where inferencing coming into picture. So stay with me on that I'm doing inferencing. I'm in Glen Waverley, it's 15-20 kilometers away from Dandenong Ranges. I can't see a fire, literally fire from my place. But I've because of the remaining four thing, I want to conclude that hill has the Dandenong Ranges fire, for example. So the second part is called hetu, the reason. So your statement, the proposition need to be supported by reason. The reason I want to make is because there is smoke. I can see smoke coming on the top of Dandenong Ranges. I haven't seen the fire. From Glen Waverley, I've seen the smoke on top of Dandenong Ranges. I can see the ranges. I can see smoke coming on top of the ranges. So that is my reason. That is a smoke I can see. Hence, I believe and I want to propose that there is a fire in the Dandenong Ranges. The third part is very critical. We take it so casually. This has become very common sense that we don't understand the so critical importance of this third part. In Hindi, it's called Udāharaṇa. In English, it's called example. But don't take it very lightly. I'm not talking about casual example. I'm not talking about just give any random closely related. So that the closely related word of example is called analogy. We usually take it very casually that analogy means it does not need to match exactly. It can be anything closer to what we want to say. That is not the right way of interpreting it. In Nyaya Darshan, it emphasized that when the level of detail I've gone through on the Udāharaṇa part is that whatever things happening in this world, in every aspect of life, I'm not talking about this fire or anything, every aspect of life, any complex subject, and there's a very solid reason behind this Udāharaṇa thing is, example thing is, every complex statement, every complex thing happening in this world can be given an exact matching example which can exactly match what you're trying to say. So I'll give more example later, but example has to be very specific, tightly matching your proposition. So here in this example, to keep it very simple, we want to give an example that wherever there is a smoke, or we can say it counter way, that wherever we see in fire, there's always smoke, or where there is a smoke, we always see a fire. So that is our example. This is our basis to support our reason and support our proposition. So they are very tightly, they cannot be loose statements there. They need to be very specific, very specific worded, and we cannot breach those boundaries. We cannot, when we're talking about fire or smoke, we cannot talk about water, we cannot talk about other aspect of conversation. We have to stay very focused on the proposition. Third part is called application, or it's in Hindi, it's called Upanaya. There must be something else, but Upanaya is the word, and then application. So we'll come to more meaningful, so more of a comprehensive practical aspect of example and reason proposition is what we go into application. And if you go in very detail in the Nyaya Darshan, it talks about all about misinterpretations. You exclude negative scenarios into Upanaya, that what people can misinterpret it for. So explicitly exclude negative scenarios, that you're not talking about those negative scenarios, you're talking about supporting scenarios there. And the last part is conclusion, which is called Nigman. So what Nigman does is, speaking all this together, is the conclusion. So the hill has fire because there is a smoke. Wherever there is a smoke, there is a fire. There is a smoke on the hill. I can see the smoke on the hill, so that's my practical, what I can see. And hence, there is a hill has a fire. So that conclusion is, even though it says that we are just saying therefore the hill has fire, but actually Nigaman in Nyaya Darshan says, speaking all these pratigya, hetu, udharan, upnayan, and Nigaman in one flow is called Nigaman. The flow, it has to be, it has to look very natural in a fluent aspect. It should not look very out of context conversation, and that makes the 5-part structure of Panchavayava. So we have already discussed in that example, previous example, that you had to prove that hill has a fire to a friend. But anyone want to make any alternative statement to prove to your friend that hill has a fire? How would you prove? What statement you would make? Or do you have any questions so far with this five?
Suryaji, this is Ravi here.
Yes, Ravi.
If you can go back to the previous, this particular slide. Uh, so how do we remove the bias from example? Because people can deem that those examples are truth, wherein some examples might not be truth, and that they might lead to false conclusions, how do we make sure that the examples that we set are also accurate, or assumptions? Maybe, I don't know if
No,
assumptions and these examples are one and the same thing, but it goes by that, yep, example is a true fact and we should validate our argument with those true facts.
yep,
Am I understanding this right? Yep.
you are absolutely right. And I'm glad you asked that question. And that is where in the beginning of this session, I emphasized a lot that people will misuse this knowledge and try to trick people, try to convince people with the wrong statement, wrong example, wrong reasons. And that is where two people, when interacting, need to follow this structure very respectfully. And the example, when you said that people may use wrong example for that matter, so
Yep.
example comes into picture called in Hindi it's called tark, or the what's the English equivalent of tark is like reasoning, argument.
Yeah. Yep.
There's a word in Hindi in Nyaya Darshan, it's called kutark. Kutark means framing wrong example to prove your point.
Yep.
And in the entire, so I'm only taking very tiny part of Nyaya Darshan. The rest of the Nyaya Darshan also speaks about all those different aspects, that when two people are debating and the other side of the person has used kutark in their argument knowingly, because it's their individual duty to validate their own example before they present. They don't let other person to clarify them. They need to do their own due diligence before they make a example or statement or reason or application or conclusion. But if somebody is intentionally using wrong example, that means it's called kutark. And if somebody has used kutark in their argument, in that statement formation, you have already won the debate. Whether they
Very
accept
nicely
it,
put.
if they have, whether they accept it or not, you can accept you've won the argument already there. You
Yep.
don't need
Yep.
to convince the other person that you use kutark and you're trying to deceive me, you're trying to convince me in the wrong way and all. At the back of your mind, you can accept it. You've won the debate, and that person has got nothing left. That other person ended up using kutark to convince their statement. And that is where I'm emphasizing again that example has to be very specific. The due diligence onus is on yourself. Don't let other people correct you that you've used a very wrong example, because other person will automatically assume that you have accepted the defeat in that argument. So onus is on you. Any other questions or clarification anyone needs on this particular, because that is the crux of the presentation, but there's still more slides to cover, but that is the main topic to be discussed today. Any other questions or doubt anyone has? Yep, let's continue then. So why use Panchavayava? Using Panchavayava keeps our thinking clean and structured. It guards against mistakes and misunderstandings. I hope I'm making my statement clear, Ravi, there, that we want to preserve ourselves. We want to guard ourselves from making mistakes and misunderstanding. It's not just for philosophers. You can use it in everyday life, whether you're explaining something at work, resolving conflicts, or making decisions.
Yep. Yep.
So by having that 5-part communication, you've already covered every dimension of that statement. And it's a very airtight statement. And person, if you emphasize and spend good time to articulate that, initially it will take long time to articulate those structured communication style, but if you practice it daily, it will come very natural to you. Once you understand and enjoy this thing, you will never go back. And your statements and communication, people will naturally understand that why you're making such style of conversation. They will not even observe that you're following some structured way of communication, and they will really enjoy your conversation with you all the time. Whether it's a debate or it's a casual talk, they will always enjoy. And another thing I wanted to talk about, I'll go back, and that is very important. As I emphasized that the example is the most important part of these 5 parts. And the reason for this one is that we deal with all dimensions of intellectual people in our society day to day. We cannot assume that everyone is at the same level. You could be at a lower level to somebody else, or you could be at a very higher level to somebody else. Rarely two at the same level people meet in your day-to-day life, throughout the day at work, at Fred's place. You will deal with different level of intellectual people. And the purpose of this example, there are 2 kinds of people. If you break down the intellectual in 2 categories, one is academic intellectual, and the second is the practical intellectual. The people, like when we say, if I take an analogy or Udāharaṇa example myself, we have seen in our villages in India that people are not so well educated academically, but they have tons of life experience and knowledge. They will tell you some solutions to certain problems straight away, or they will guess the problem without even you speaking a word in front of them, or they will make a joking or sarcastic comment to you and teach you the entire life's wisdom in one statement. All those things happen in India. I'm just giving example because we spend most of our life in India, or maybe equal life there and here now. But we have an example in India that if academic is not everything, but at the same time, those who are very highly professional at the top of their game, top of their expert in their field, then 2 people in the same academic or top level, they can talk highly technical, highly quickly. They can come to the conclusion and understanding of that subject matter quickly. But when we're dealing with so many people in day-to-day life, onus is on you to simplify your complex proposition, the pratigya, the proposition. If you're making a very complex statement, its onus is on you to bring a common, understandable example so that uh, there's no element of doubt left in your statement. You're communicating to one person, or if you're dealing with an audience of 50 people, there's no element of confusion in that entire audience by including a very good quality example that if you break down the intellectual in 2 parts, all academic will automatically understand the proposition itself. But if the second category of people are there in that audience, they will understand absolutely by listening to your quality example. Hence, whatever amount of effort you put into your proposition or reason, put equal amount on choosing a exact right example to support your proposition. And by putting an example in your statement, you're leaving no room for confusion. You are going very specific, supporting your main proposition. Hence, a lot of effort has been given in Udāharaṇa. Coming back to my 3 parts to knowing facts of life, when I'm not getting the right term to say, or maybe if I should say in Hindi, there are 3 pramans. There are actually 5 or 8 pramans as well, but the 3 top categories of praman. Praman is the proofs in life. The first is Pratyaksha, which is the first-hand experience of things. Second is Anuman, which is called inferencing. Anuman, that you haven't experienced it, but you can interpret it, inference it by this 5 parts communication style. And the third one is Shabd Praman, which is a word from an expert in the trade or top expert in that field, or rishis in that term in ancient times. So if you hear a word from rishi or from the top Nobel laureate scientist or top published scientist or author or something, or top movie maker, top writer, you have to trust their words that because they have experienced that thing firsthand throughout their life and their word has become equivalent to those proofs. So we always quote in all academic writing, we give references, right? And by doing referencing, we are using the Shabda Praman. That because these 5 researchers have done these research already, hence my supporting my statement, what I'm putting in my research paper. So I'm quoting those, referencing those previous authors. So we are using the Shabda Praman there. Or first is I'm doing my own experiments in my research, then my own experiments conclusion or outcomes is what I'm presenting is my Pratyaksha. But the inferencing, the Anuman, is what we deal in these 5 parts. And out of these 3 pramans, first and third is very easy. They are low hanging fruits, but they are limited by time and space. I can only experience certain things in my life or places I can visit in my limited time. I can only speak to limited number of experts of the trade. But Anuman gives you unlimited potential and possibilities to explore. Hence, this Anuman, the inferencing is so powerful that you can know entirety of your life or the universe or any subject matter for that matter by practicing these 5 parts of reasoning technique. And you can discover that knowledge by just going step by step. So I haven't gone into actual interaction, how the debate happens. I haven't gone into the structure of how to organize a debate, how to interact, and the rules which I mentioned earlier. If somebody is using kutarka, then wrong example, the other person has already accepted the defeat. So those are the rules of conversation or debate. I'm not going there. But before you go there, you need to understand this, how to articulate your statement in the first place and how to practice this in day-to-day life so that you can have airtight communication over the period of time. And it will come very natural to you.
Surya ji, going back to those 3 fact-checking
Proofs, praman or
proofs,
proofs, yep.
yeah, pramans, Pratyaksh and
Anuman
then
and Shabd.
Anuman,
And Shabd.
Shabd.
Yep.
So even though they seem very obvious, it has such a profound impact on the decisions we make in our day-to-day life, even if we use 3 in great synergy. For example, during COVID times in India, a lot of people, Pratyaksh, they saw that, okay, it's just a cold or flu, and a lot of people, Anuman lagaya ki, look, it's just a common cold, but no one took the Shabda Praman very seriously, which the authorities were saying. And a lot of people, because of not being able to understand the gravity or not coming to a conclusive proof and making poor choices, have actually ended up losing their lives. So it is very important that all of these 3 have a great role in the decisions we make, and they should be taken very seriously.
Yep. Thank you,
Yep.
Ravi. And as I said, there are 3 high-level categories. If you break it down, it can be broken down into 8 categories of proofs or pramans, basically. And one of the example, as you mentioned, COVID, for example, I can just prove in just one statement in this group that everyone see people dying every day, right? But no one in the room believes in dying because we haven't experienced dying ourselves.
Yep.
So that is one of the negative, the praman example, subcategory there. So that we all see, but we all believe that we'll live forever. That's how but the reasoning goes so deep,
Yeah,
and
very counterintuitive.
yes,
Yes.
and I really enjoy those style of thinking, and yeah, lots of things there.
Mm.
So I'll just read those through quickly so that we absorb the gravity of this important aspect. Is this Panchavayava ensures clarity and structure, avoids confusion and errors, builds persuasive arguments, helps in debates and daily decisions. I'll just emphasize again that the purpose of debate is not to win. The purpose of debate is to learn, know the true fact. What is truth? That is the purpose of debate. But when I speak to lots of young students who say their hobby is to debate. And when I ask them what is the purpose of debate, they say the purpose of debate is to win. And that is a wrong statement. I try to correct them. The purpose is not to win, the purpose is to learn the truth. Winning and losing is the side effect, but you need to, the objective should be to learn something out of that debate. And trains disciplined thinking. So that is very important. And training, the word training means that you have to practice it daily so that you become expert in that trade of that logical reasoning. How does it fit into reasoning? It's a part of Nyay's method of inference, Anumana. So I've already mentioned that. Links evidence to conclusion logically. Ensures valid knowledge, so finding the truth basically. Praman basically comes from Praman, ensures valid knowledge, so you know what you talk without actually first and experiencing. You can prove yourself, or two people debating prove among themselves what is the valid knowledge. So in Nyaya Darshan, it goes very left and right, tightly debates, ask tons of questions, and that is where I emphasize, and I've been very good student to my Acharya by asking him so many questions during those learning sessions, and nobody can learn any important topic without asking so many questions. So always have a habit of asking lots of questions without worrying about how other people will think, because that's where we learn that valid knowledge, true knowledge, prama or praman for that matter, and helps test truth claims. So let's look into some examples, but I'll be more keen to hear some dilemmas, some questions individuals may have in back of their mind, and we can discuss it here as an example or discussion group discussion here. So I've given some just two examples. Why trust weather forecast? We all open our weather app and see how the day would look like. Accordingly, we'll wash our laundry, or we'll go out, we'll plan our weekend, or we'll go to office if working from home and things like that. So why do we trust weather forecast? Or why do we believe Earth is round? For centuries, people believed the Earth is flat, for that matter, or the whole sun or everything is rotating around Earth, or rather than Earth is rotating around sun. And also, these are some examples. Two people, and we do lots such casual debates on social gathering or on various occasions. But I hope after this session, you will always include a reason, you will include a very good example, analogy example, exact analogy example, and you will also discuss the application. I have to come back on the application part or the exact analogy there, but in my practice, we have to, next to the example, you have to put what it is not as well. You have to make it very airtight. You can give an example, this is what it is, but what it is not, how it should not be misinterpreted this way or that way. You have to include those negative examples as well to make it very airtight. Any question or suggestion you want to make it a quick real life example discussion? Santoshji, yes.
We trust forecast because over the years we have experienced what they say have turned out. Here and there, they go wrong, but our own experience has been that what they forecast is happening, and therefore we have developed a trust in them.
So proposition is we trust weather forecast. What is the reason?
Because their forecast was true in the past. We have been experiencing that what they forecasted turned out to be that. So we have some faith in them. And it is true that in the beginning, a lot of forecast was not True. So they
No,
have also polished their methods.
no, we can't be very elaborate. We have to make our composition very specific, short, and airtight. So the proposition is that we trust weather forecast. The reason we say because they have gathered regular interval data from wider area. They have over the years gathered every minute, every hour data from much wider area. Example that if you have economics, you can give an example of any economics, that if you know the trends over the time, if you gathered the data, then you can make those predictions more accurately. That's an example you would give by using some example of economics, that if it is good rain this year, there'll be very bumper crop, for example. So that example may not be airtight, and so that's where I need to spend some time to get a very good example that what corresponding analogy of forecasting I can make. That if you do this, then or example of share market, for example, we can say share market works in the same way. People make some good guesses and they make good profit out of that. So they are not always right, but we trust at the percentage of accuracy. So that's our statement, that we generally trust, because either there's no, so in example, we'll give example of share market, but at the same time, anti-example, we say we don't blindly trust it, we take it with a pinch of salt. And the exam application is, then we say that we experienced this from last 15 years or 20 years or 30 years. We living in Australia, for example, that the apps, the forecast, the Bureau of Meteorology is doing good job there. And then you speak the whole length in one statement there. And so that's one. How would you do the earth is round? So proposition is earth is round.
Earth is round.
Reason is because we see same sun or same moon every month, for example. We see same spots in the moon and it's going one direction only. So it must be going behind and coming back. But that's not, it still doesn't tell about that earth is round. Earth can still be flat. If the moon is going around, earth could still be flat. So that's not a reason. So if we go on the top of the mountain next to the ocean or something, you can see a curve, maybe that could be the reason. What other reason you can give to prove that earth is round?
Nowadays, people have gone in the space and they have seen the earth.
But so that's a Shabda Praman. We're talking about the middle inferencing part. As the two people who haven't gone to space, how would you argue and come to the conclusion? Otherwise, if you end up referencing the Shabda Praman, then you don't need this inferencing bit at all.
Yeah, I think the reason would be that we are limited with our horizon. So with a clear line of sight, the horizon is, I don't know, 12.5 kilometers. You can't see beyond that. So if you go, and that basically could be a reason why it must be a curve, because if it was a flat one, you might have a horizon which is 100 kilometers, 1000 kilometers, and you should be able to view through one single line of sight. But because it's curved, there is a limitation on how far you can see. I would look at that as a reason, Bhaiya.
You can also use the reason that if you go on a hilly road and the upcoming traffic, you can see only tip of the truck or car coming in front of you, then you see the whole car when you go closer to that car on the curve of the mountain, for example. With that same analogy, you can see that if you see or sitting on the beach, you see only tip of the ship, then you see the entire ship coming when it comes closer to the shore. So it must be on the curved path. And if you go
Yep, that
basic
makes sense.
something those baby steps, analogies, reasoning, and then example, you will give example of that if you see a car on the curvy road or something, or you can also use some specific example around there. But I'm just saying that I may not have come prepared with those real breakdown of those two examples myself, but I'm just saying this is when you make a full statement, you don't need to make impromptu statement. That is very critical to know.
Yep.
You need to take all your time beforehand before you go into that discussion. The topic of the discussion debate is well presented. When people used to do those shastrarts or debates, they were given topic in advance, weeks, months, or years, that this is the topic you want to debate, come prepared. So
Yep.
people used to break down, and or they used to discuss very complex that they needed that months and years. But for day-to-day thing, if you include some good solid reason, one very good simple example where it is applicable, how it is applicable in day-to-day life, and then make it a conclusion there, then if you practice it that every day, you will start making very solid statements all the time. People
Yep.
will enjoy having conversation with you all the time around that. And if you build that interest in Nyaya Darshan, for that matter, go and discuss and learn, and maybe I can bring it in future, the structure of debate, so that what rules to follow and discipline was there. And as soon people started breaking those discipline, and there are various rules around it, and that takes the pain away from your life. As I said before, if somebody uses wrong analogy to deceive you, you back off. If you can, either you say it up front that you've used kutark or bad example, you've already lost the debate, let's stop this conversation, you have got nothing to say. Or if some person is dominating or powerful, you can't comment on front, or you just accept it back of your mind that you have won, walk away, don't bother the other person, and don't even further future have debates with such people. So those are rules that you never engage with people. It's with people who make all those false, they break the rule of conversation, and that disturbs your peace of mind. So while these, yeah, Ravi, you want to make some comment?
Yeah, sometimes the irony is those people don't even know that they are making kutar. In their mind, they think they are absolute clear in their mind that they hold the truth, and it's and you just have to bang your head now. There's nothing much you can do. That's really hard. If they're doing intentionally, then we understand. But a lot of people, they're innocent, good people, but they just have such clear view in their mind of what is right, even though it's wrong.
Yeah.
There's not much we can do about it.
So you can just say your facts, your statements, and then leave that conversation. Don't need to. So the rule says that you should not continue from that point. If you're continuing, it's your problem, not theirs.
Yep.
And the objective of all these darshan shastra is to not only teach you these techniques of structure, discipline, conversation, and everything, but at the same time protect your inner peace. That is very subtle. Sorry.
Discrimination. You have to decide where to have conversation and where not to have conversation.
So definitely that, but your inner peace should never get disturbed. You should have very calm personality inside you, and how to keep yourself calm, because if you're not calm, you will never learn good things, you will not have a good happy life, you will not have a successful life. And that is what these technique teach. I'm just talking about this Nyaya Darshan for that matter. I've read few other darshan. They've touched upon various different aspects of life, and no matter what they teach as a practice, but at the same time, the subtle objective of those teaching is that how to protect your inner peace, how to not get too much emotional or sad or disturbed by outer factors which are not in your control, and keep your inner calm. So when I say it is a very good framework, they are all very tightly linked to each other. They ensure they protect each other. So when I go back there, So when we say this proposition is very important, or I say example is most important thing, or reason is they are all equally important. They are all supporting each other. That is where it's a framework. Framework ensures that you cannot breach condition of each dependency on each other. So, and that is that sense of understanding how tightly or good structured way of structuring this. And that is where, when I said in the beginning of the session that these rishis who have written these darshan shastra, they haven't solved problem of their time. They've solved problem of entirety of humanity. In any situation, any time, in any culture, in any place, or as I said, in your professional life, in personal life, or family life,
Yeah, it is a fundamental.
it is foundational. These are foundational
Foundation.
frameworks here. So if you take that interest, that seriousness into this topic and practice it, then you can read more about this Nyay. So I've got some tips to use Panchavayava in daily life. Always clarify your claim first. As I said, onus is on yourself. Don't let other people correct you. Do your own due diligence first. Support claims with solid reasons. Don't make any casual. So all these 5 parts any part cannot be very casual. You have to think very seriously. They need to be very solid. Initially, you will feel it very painful. I can't find a solid reason. Then that's where your deep thinking will develop over the time when you practice. Initially, it may take 1 hour, 2 hour, but over the time you will build very natural. Then you can come with solid reason all the time. That is where you will get a blessing in the sense that because of your hard work, your brain will develop such a way that those reasons will come very natural to you. Use examples familiar to your audience. As I described, there are 2 kinds of intelligence. There's a common sense and there's an academic or technical. When I say academic, I'm not disqualifying them. What I'm saying, academic means they are highly technical, highly trained intelligence, where they can understand your style of conversation, technical conversation and all. But there's a common audience as well. Like if I'm a IT person, for example, if I make a town hall session speech for that matter, all the audience in my company, they may not be all technical. There'll be some sales people, there'll be some marketing people, there may be some accounting or finance people, or there may be some management people and all. So I need to know my audience, and the example should be catered for the audience. So always know your audience. Even though you're debating with 2 people, you may be thinking you're only talking to 1 person. But the purpose and I haven't gone into wider structure of how the debate should happen. What was the purpose of debate? Debate was done for the society. There will be lots of audience surrounding you, following you, observing you. Even in your social or company discussion, 2 people are debating in a meeting. There is an audience sitting next to you. In the office meeting, there are so many people sitting and listening to both of you debating, or in social or friendship or family discussion. So the objective of this debate, even though you both know, for example, 2 rishis used to debate in the past. They already know what is the conclusion, but they try to very tightly discuss all aspects, all dimension. They never leave any stone unturned. They turn every single stone around that topic to give a deep training into logical thinking. That yes, you have turned this stone, that stone, that stone, that stone, that stone, but only this stone is what fits into this argument. So by doing this, 2 intellectual people debating, you're educating surrounding people. And so debate is a very healthy thing and necessary thing in a society. And that is where you need to have discipline, so that you set a good example in the society. And there's lots of other rules around debates, but always know your audience to articulate, because sometimes people debate through research paper. For example, people write research paper and counter research paper to argument or debate with other scientists or something, but the audience is much wider than 2 people argumenting in those research papers. So they're always know your audience, so use a very familiar, common example so that everybody can understand. Apply general truths to your case clearly. Never bring rocket science into your argument. Bring very common sense knowledge. And as we all know, common sense is very uncommon, but over the practice, you will bring common sense very easily in your arguments. Conclude confidently, but open to questions. Even though you make this very airtight, structured statement, that should not be end of debate. You should always be open to challenges made to you, to your argument, and you should be humble enough to receive those questions and respond to those questions and rephrase. So I just may want to give a glimpse that when you're debating, you're making this statement after statement. Those statements need to be very tied to each other, one after another, very baby steps. If I'm making some example or statement or reason, the next reason from other person should be very closely related. And your counter statement or reason or example need to be again very closely related. You should go very one baby step after other. You cannot jump from here. I'm talking about Earth. You cannot jump to planet Mars for that matter conversation. You cannot jump your topic so wide, so big. You have to bring that person back. No, don't go what term we use in our day-to-day life. We don't allow people to change the topic or go out too wide. You need to keep people very tight conversation. That's how you can conclude to know the truth. So those are different rules of debate. I'm digressing there myself, but you should be, the reason I said that, you should be open to questions. You should be open to accept counter reasons. Just don't make a passing comment and walk away. Never do that. And always be open to counter question to yourself or reason to yourself. And don't bring your personal ego. And also, that is where, by training you to debate, to accept counter reason, you become humble person, that you don't build so much ego, because ego builds that anger and all those things, and all this training are converging you towards inner peace. And people think that this is purely about how to fight. No, it's not fight, or it's bringing your inner peace and understanding, so how you debate and converse. So I'm so fascinated by all these darshan shastra. I'm so glad I learned when I came to Australia. I could have learned a lot when I was in India, but maybe my destiny was to learn it here. But I thank to my Acharya late with Prakash Shotriji from New Delhi, and he unfortunately passed away last year. And he taught me so many other darshans and other things, and he gave me perspective, and I learned a lot by asking lots of questions. So I hope I give good tips how to practice Panchavayava in daily life. Let me see what's next. So yeah, final thoughts. Before I go into final thoughts, any questions to ponder upon before I go towards conclusion? I'm not even able to check time today because yeah, it's 10:07. Sorry. So any questions before I go into final thoughts and inspiration there? Yep, all good. I'm sure it's very late, but I hope you would have appreciated what I'm showing in this webinar today. Vimalji?
Yeah, so because in your last presentation, I have seen somewhere disciplined thinking. So can we, assume that it's a fixed rule sort of thing? Because, if we can go in a broader way, then creative thinking, because which is, you can look at the problem or situation in a new way, new ideas, innovative solutions. Because, rather than following the fixed rules, creative thinkers come up with unique approaches that others may not see. Because, I mean to say that thinking outside the box. So I'm just adding into I may be the wrong. So can you please elaborate on this?
Definitely, and very good critical question you asked. Thank you for that. And yes, you have to be very creative, and creative comes into every single component of this, and how to very precisely make very short proposition, how creative you come with a reason, and all your creative juice will train on picking the very perfect example. But within certain boundaries, and the boundary is the framework. Are you getting my point, Vimalji? Where the
Yeah,
discipline
yeah.
is the boundary, but within
Got
those boundaries, you have all the freedom to choose whatever example, whatever reason, whatever application you want to choose
yeah.
to prove your proposition. Proposition cannot be creative.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And you have very nicely presented. I know it's the time is running away, so you can please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much. But you ask very important, very good question. Thank you. Thank you, Vimalji, for that. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
So let's come to the final thoughts and inspirations. Clear thinking transforms lives. I think we'll all observe these facts, final thoughts. Logic empowers confident decisions. We'll never regret about our decisions if we do apply logic to all our decision making. Panchavayava is a timeless tool, which I hope I've done a good job explaining that part. Practice leads to mastery. So practice, if I want to become a good cricketer, I need to practice my batting or bowling every day in a very disciplined way, within a boundary of the practice range or something, and a very technique or rules of the game. So rules of the game is a framework. Within those boundaries, I can make helicopter shot or any kind of shot or any kind of bowling technique or something, but within the rules. So that's my guardrail. But without practice, I cannot become a good player in any sport, for that example. So practice is critical, and you can become a better thinker and communicator. As my previous slide said that always clarify your claim first. So to clarify your own claim first will make you very better thinker. You will think twice or thrice before you make any statement in the society, because sometimes we say, oh, we can make any passing comment or loose comment in a friendly setup or something. But by making those loose comments or passing comments in a social or friendly environment, we are spoiling our discipline and losing our habit in professional world as well. So our friendly or casual environment is our playground to practice, and the real world, our professional world, or wherever critical places we are in, is our real world, where we apply our practice over the time. So bring discipline, bring clear thinking, transform your life. With that note, I'll conclude my presentation. Thank you, everyone. Any concluding question from anyone? Yep. Think with that note, Pallavi Babi, any question? Ashish ji, Usha ji? All good. So thank you everyone for showing your patience, staying 12 minutes over. Sincere apology because I was presenting today. I could not keep track of my own time. But thank you everyone for attending today's webinar, and we'll meet you again into next week. Please like, subscribe, and share on social media so that we have wider reach and more audience in future webinars.
Thank you.
Thank you, Santoshji. Thank you, Vimalji, and everybody.
Thank you.
With
Thank you
that
very
note,
much.
good night. See you next week. Bye.